And here's the caveat, Jennifer, is that you think they're not selling from the front of the room, but a very good speaker is already selling. And then you think it's your choice to go to the go to the table.
I think it's your choice. Yeah.
Amy Jo Honey, an influencer, sales trainer, and live event sales expert, sits down with Jennifer Little-Fleck for an entertaining conversation that shows the side of sales most people never think about. This is BrainCelling.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the BrainCelling podcast. Today, I have with me Amy Jo Honey. Amy Jo and I have actually gotten to know each other through attending the NCI graduate school program with Chase Hughes. And we found that we are both very much aligned in how we approach just the whole philosophy of sales. But Amy Jo has some really interesting insights and background into what she does that's maybe a little bit different from the type of sales that you're traditionally used to. And I'm not going to say too much more, but she also shares my love of brain health and wellness and just general body wellness in general. So welcome, Amy Jo.
I am so honored. Thank you so much for bringing me on. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
So, to be honest with you, Amy, I know that you do a lot of something called back of the room sales. And that is not anything that I was really familiar with until I met you. So could you kind of educate me and the audience a little bit on what that is?
I would love to. So, when you go to a seminar and there's usually a table set up in the back of the room, and usually that's the coaches, or it's the people kind of like putting the event on or running it or making sure the temperature stays good in the room and all that kind of stuff. But what we really are is we're really salespeople. But we're
Mm.
salespeople in a very different capacity because we're essentially coaches. And our job is the way I do it is different than the way other seminar companies do it. Most seminar companies are like sell, 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 push, 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 like go for it. Like I've worked for some companies, then they're like, did you talk to this person? Why didn't they buy? Why didn't they buy? Why didn't they buy? Because what a lot of speakers do is they put on a good show from the front of the room, and then they expect the sales team to go chase the sales that they disconnected. Right?
Okay. All right. So let me get this straight. So what happens is, let's say I am super interested in learning more about a particular topic from a very highly regarded speaker in whatever industry I'm in. And I go to this person's talk and, I listen to their talk, but then they also kind of like pitch me at this seminar to either join, their community, maybe buy their book or something, or join a course, so that's what you're talking about?
Yeah, and it's usually a course. Like if you're going to a seminar, they are going to sell you something. I promise you. They're going to make an offer because the reality too is that if you're interested enough in a specific teacher and you just get a weekend with them or a day with them or a couple days with them, the question in your head is, I want more of this. How do I go further with this person? Right? So that's the question in
Right.
the attendee's head. So then that's what we facilitate from the back of the room. But also, we're also running the event. Often we're running the lights, the music, the audio visual. Like often we're doing a lot of different things. And usually you'll meet us at registration. And it's really funny because the reality is we are actually consultants to the speaker, but we look like just registration people, right? So a lot
I
of people
see.
don't realize the influence that we have on the speaker, and we're determining, is this person a good fit? We also determine, like, maybe this isn't the right thing for them right now, and then we will encourage them to go a different direction. So it might be, we're kind of like the gatekeeper as well.
Mm, that's interesting. So not only are you sort of like covert salespeople, but you're also kind of, I don't know, you're coaching the actual speaker on
Yeah.
how to get more sales at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really interesting. So, what are the top things that you typically have to kind of coach these speakers on doing to get more sales?
Well, it's really interesting because, like I said, a lot of speakers, I mean, if you're going to be in front of the room, you probably have a little bit of an ego, and that's okay because these guys are very charismatic, and that's how they can sell, and that's how they can affect and really impact lives on a really good level. So I say ego not in a bad way, but what happens is like production companies will play to their ego, and they will go, they'll put on a good show, so they put on a really good show, but the thing they're doing isn't necessarily leading to a sale. So we're there like as guardrails kind of going, oh, maybe that's not a good idea, maybe that's not a good idea, right? Let's come back, because what we're looking for is what's going to open somebody and what's going to close somebody, right? What's going to connect them to the speaker and what's going to disconnect them. And so we've had speakers oh, this is a really simple one. Okay. So you've got the back table, right? The
Right.
the back table, right? And speakers often want to get the video of what they're doing. And they'll place the camera right in front of the sales table or the back table. And so what do people do when they see a camera through an event? They avoid it, they duck it.
They
And so you're
avoid it.
really training them to avoid the sales table. So then when they're like, hey, go back to the room and back, go buy. If you're interested, go talk to my team in the back. And then they don't know why, but they don't want to, right?
Mm,
So
right.
that's disconnect, right? So like that's often I'm like, they're like, oh, can I have it here? Like, no, you can't. Like, let's put it over here. Like, oh, but it's not the best angle. I don't look good from this side. And we're like, trust me, you do not want the camera where you want to put it, right? So it's just like it can be as little as that or as big as, someone, you know, uh taking a political side from the front of the room, and
Mm,
it's like now you just disconnected half the room, you know?
yeah.
So, yeah.
Can you share maybe like one of the biggest blunders you've ever seen or one of the most interesting adjustments that led to a lot more sales than that person typically saw?
Yeah, so actually, one of my current clients, he's a great guy, but he doesn't want to be seen as selling. So he had his own
Mm,
mindset thing around it. So almost every event that we did, the very first event we did with him, he was like, okay, come on, bring the sales team in. I'm going to sell this 15K package. And we like coached him on this package, helped him put the package together, all that stuff. And then we get to the event and he's like, yeah, I'm not going to pitch from the front of the room. And we're like, you have to, like, that's our money too, right? Like we don't make any
right.
money if you sell anything. I mean, we get a consultation fee, but we're not in it for consultation fees. We're in it for commissions at the end of the
Right.
day, right? And so, what was funny was there's a speaker that actually, this guy is an awful dude. He actually has felonies for some of his seminars that he has previously done because he ripped people off, and he sells a $60,000 program. And a lot of the people that were at that current event where he was like, my client was like, yeah, I'm not going to sell from the front of the room. I said, can I say names on here? Because I'll say this guy's name. I have no problem saying who this guy is because he's
Oh, go
pretty.
for it.
Okay. So Marshall Silver. Marshall Silver is a really well-known hypnotist here in Las Vegas. He sells several packages, but like people are very unhappy with his $60,000 package. It's a lot of money, right? And the problem was that a lot of the people that my client had come from him. And so there was a couple people that had purchased and he wasn't fulfilling, and my client was fulfilling on the other guy's program because he felt bad that he had introduced him to this guy, right? So the event was kind of back to back with this Marshall Silver event. So almost everybody that was at our current event was heading to the Marshall Silver event. So what I said to my client at the time, I said, dude, if you don't sell them something from the front of the room, they're going to go buy Marshall Silver's. And he's like, oh,
Uh,
you're right. Oh my God, you're right. So I got him to sell. We sold 80% of the room on that, on that event.
oh my gosh, that's amazing, Amy Jo. Okay, so how interesting is it though the mindset of the speaker
Yeah.
not wanting to sell, because I feel like a lot of salespeople, whether you're an entrepreneur, you have a small business, like you're kind of in it sometimes because you just love what you do, but you're not really comfortable with selling. And would never have thought that like there were speakers that way as well.
Absolutely, yeah, because they have their own stuff, and that's where it's really good to have salespeople from the back of the room as a speaker, because you want to kind of elevate that speaker, and then if there are any kind of like weirdness, then like we can handle it, right? So we can be like, I can come in and be the bad guy, right? So the speaker doesn't have to be the bad guy. So I can come in and be the bad guy. I can come in and go, no, that's not, that's not what you purchased, or that's not what you did. Or like collections, like the speaker, I've had speakers that have done collections themselves, because a lot of speakers come in and start their journey and they're like a one-man show and they're doing all of it. They're doing the sales calls, they're doing the speaking from the front of the room, they're doing the collections after the event. But if you can give a little bit of a separation there, it really helps the speaker so that they don't have to come in and be the bad guy if there's like bad news that you have to deliver to somebody because they didn't pay the bill or something, you know.
Oh my gosh, that's really interesting. I had no idea. So, I mean, in just for context, we're talking about people like Tony Robbins, for example, probably has a similar setup, right? He's this huge
Absolutely he does.
charismatic speaker from the front of the room. I'm imagining, though, that he's a pretty good salesperson from the front of the room,
He's excellent.
but he still is going to need somebody like yourself to manage all that at the back of the room.
Exactly. And he does. When you go to a Tony event, there's the whole entire back is lined with tables, and there's about 15 people, 15, 20 people. Like, because it takes a lot, because you might have somebody that's focused in on sales. You might have someone that's more focused in on coaching. You might have someone that's just running the lights for Tony. Like Tony's like high level, right? Up there.
Right,
Um,
right.
and Tony's events are phenomenal. Like if you want to run an event, watch what Tony's doing. But a lot of people, they don't realize, but Tony's excellent sales from the front of the room, and from the back of the room, because again, his people are all trained, to sell in an ethical way too, and hold space for you, and help. A good salesperson isn't selling, right? A good person is never selling. We're closing, which is different than selling. The selling should all be done from the front of the room, and then we're just closing. And what that looks like is that the speaker is the one that's like explaining why you need to do this and what's good about it and stuff. We are just getting on their side and trying to help them to make a good buying decision for themselves. So what we do is we turn up the buying behavior. So we're not selling, we're just turning up buying behavior, because people hate to be sold, but they love to buy. And so then they feel good about the decision that they made. We're not pushing them ever. I don't believe in pushy sales.
Okay, wow. I have so many things to ask you about what you just said. That is amazing. Because first of all, like I know a lot of people listening to this podcast are in, pharmaceutical sales, and the thought of having almost like a tag team where one person kind of does the selling and another person does the closing, like that's kind of blowing my mind right now. I mean, Joe, like, the fact that you could kind of have that set up if you had a really good partner. The other thing I want to comment on is I've been to a lot of biohacking conferences, and hearing you talk, generally what happens is there's general sessions where we hear speakers from stage, right? And they're not selling. It's really a informational kind of a thing. They're not actually really selling at that point. But then there's like kind of breakout rooms that you can sign up for if you want to hear more from them. There's where they do a little more of the selling from the front of the room. But then if you want to buy, they have like all of these booths set up like outside the seminar areas where you can just walk up and buy whatever it is that they want. So it is really kind of separated out. But because of that, I feel like I'm in total control of being sold. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm choosing then whether or not I'm going to walk to their booth afterwards and buy their stuff.
Right. And here's the caveat, Jennifer, is that you think they're not selling from the front of the room, but a very good speaker is already selling. And then you think it's your choice to go to the go to the table.
You think it's your choice, yeah.
It's
Well, like,
the illusion of choice. It's great,
it
which
is,
is very important in sales. The illusion of choice is key in sales.
and that's one of the main things that you and I do learn ad nauseum
Yeah.
from NCI graduate school. So,
Yeah.
how is your role in closing the sale, would you say, different? Like, what language are you using to help them decide?
That's a great question. So the way that I see sales is I look at the energy, right? So we're looking at like a masculine energy and a feminine energy. Masculine energy is the old way of selling. It's push, 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 buy, 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 sell, sell, sell. No pain, no gain. That's very masculine, right? And it's competitive, right? But women, we are more collaborative and we are more like if you think about um like the way that we create in the world, like we have the ability to create an entire human, and hopefully we did it with pleasure. Maybe not all of us, but hopefully we enjoyed
Yeah.
it, right? But we're meant to, right? Women are very much more collaborative. So women are very much more like get like friends, like get on your side, like we're going to do this together. And men are like I'm going to push you into a decision, right? And so what I teach is actually we teach the 4 buying languages. There's a lot more, but the main 4, and being able to speak their buying language instead of yours, right? So one of the big things that we teach is you buy like you sell. So like if before I understood this, I am a very my personality type is very hard, very fast decision making. Like we're kind of like your CEOs or your leaders or your like significance people, whatever you want to call it, right? And
Hmm.
so typically most salespeople have a 25% closing average because they accidentally speak that 25% language of 25% of the population. So normally if I was going to go sell somebody, I would think they want to know the return on investment, they want the information quickly, and they're going to make a decision fast. Where a personality type like you're a bit more like analytical, you're more of like a deep thinker, you're more like you probably love spreadsheets, I would guess.
I'm a
And
data.
so
Yeah.
data person, right? So you want information. Where me, I don't want information. I want big picture. If you start giving me details, you've drowned me and you've lost that sale. So I know
Right.
if I'm selling to someone like you, I can't sell like I sell to me. But we already assume that people buy the way we buy or are going to be interested or purchase for the reason that we purchase for. So it's really important that I look at how are you going to purchase? So if I was going to sell something to you, I would give you a lot of details. I would give you a lot of information. And at the end of the call, I probably wouldn't close you at all. I would go, Jennifer, I feel like you probably need, a night to sleep on this and you're probably going to have some more questions. Why don't we meet tomorrow and I'll answer the rest of your questions tomorrow? And that's going to feel really good to you. And that's going to open you instead of close you. Because if I had said, Jennifer, this is it. These are the details. Let's go. Let's go. Are you in or what? You'd be like, I'm out instantly.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. And that's one of the things that, you and I have talked about in the past is just really understanding, how is it that that person in front of us makes decisions, right? Are they making decisions based on, is this an investment, which is very much me. Like when I make a decision, I think about how is this going to benefit future gen? you know? And and my husband and I, we laugh because we talk about future Jim and future Jen, but like you said, some people, make decisions based on, ooh, is this new? Is this the latest and greatest? Like, am I the first one to have this? So I think there's a lot of things that go into not only understanding the personalities like you described, But like you said, that buying language, that, understanding how I make decisions. Okay, so now I know that you are a woman of many talents.
Aw.
And you not only are an expert in back of the room sales, but you also, I know, have other additional programs where you help people one on one. I know you've mentioned sales Tai Chi in the past. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so Sales Tai Chi is a year-long program, and in it we teach the buying languages. We teach a three-step process called connect, coach, close, because the idea is that you have to connect first, and then you have to get permission to coach before you can close. So an example of that is, have you ever had somebody slip into your DMs with like, "Hey, check out my new weight loss program," right? My
Of
new
course.
nutritional
Yes.
product, right? Well, that's going into coaching and closing before they connected with you. So it doesn't work. We know it
It
doesn't
doesn't
work.
work.
Right. So we have a saying with Sales Tai Chi. I've got a couple sayings. So it's no pressure, just profit, no force, just flow. So it's getting into the flow of the natural river of human behavior. So you want to be able to get into that natural flow of how humans are already making buying decisions, and we kind of call it like a stream. And so like everybody's like in their little canoes and everybody's like heading down this river of human behavior, and we call it placing the sail downstream. So when you place the sail downstream, as they're cruising by in their boat, they just pop the sail into their boat and they cruise on into your lake, and you sell them bigger boats, right? But what most companies do is they put the sail upstream because they do all this disconnecting stuff rather than connect all the way to the sail. They do this disconnecting stuff. They place the sail up the stream, and then they tell the sales team, "Why aren't you chasing that sail?" Like, because I'm going to go for the easier ones down here faster, because these are going to close faster than the ones you placed up there, right?
Mm,
Um,
right.
so that's one saying. The other saying that I have around sales Tai Chi is, my definition of a successful sales call doesn't necessarily end in the exchange of money. My definition of a successful sales call ends when both parties leave that call feeling empowered. So it's about empowering others to make good decisions.
Yes.
And
So
that's
that's so interesting. First of all, again, we met because we're very much aligned in our thinking, right? And because my motto is connect first, message second, and then influence on purpose. So, I mean, like we're speaking the same language.
connect, coach, close.
Yes.
Exactly. Connect, coach, close. That's exactly our process. Wild.
Yes.
That's cool.
And yeah, I know it's really funny. But we both know how critical it is to make that emotional, subconscious, unconscious connection, however it is. I think that's been lost by most people. And I think COVID just like killed it. That whole connection thing. And when I talk to sales managers, sales leadership, the number one thing they say to me is that they really need people to understand how to make that social connection again,
Mm.
because it's just lost, completely. I love everything that you said. So, what else can you tell me about any of your programs or things that people can do to sort of get into that flow a little bit better if they're not familiar with kind of this methodology at all?
So definitely be looking out for like tactics. The moment somebody's like, "Oh, you should use this tactic or you should use this script," right? I give people a script in our sales Tai Chi, but I teach them how to get out of the script as fast as they can. Because if you're in a
Mm,
script, you're not connecting. So I think figure out how to get out of the script, figure out how to connect with people on a real true level, and it really comes from like the easiest thing. This is what we teach. First thing we teach people to do. We smile at a stranger, right? So your first close in learning how to do this properly is to smile at a stranger and get their name. That's your close. And if you start practicing that everywhere you go, so like when we're at like, and this has been our habit for years, like for years. If we go into a coffee shop, if we go into our waitress, like we know our waitress's names. We ask them enough questions of our waitress. If they've got kids at home, like what time they're off work, we just get to know them. We just connect with every single person. We take every single interaction. Like you said, that connection is lost. Like we're walking through the world and the amount of people, because we're looking for people to make eye contact with us. And people don't. They just don't. They're like this, like walking through the world like this. And we're like waiting for eye contact so we can get a smile and maybe make a connection with some stranger, right? And it could be really small and really
Yeah.
brief.
The reason
So
I'm laughing, Amy Jo, right now is because you're right. Like people are like this, they don't want to make eye contact. And I happen to be really comfortable with long and extended eye contact. And I have been accused so many times of like having the psychopath stare, but I am just like I know, but I'm just like I really feel like I connect with someone when I'm, looking at them.
yeah,
And that makes people uncomfortable, especially now because they're not used to that. They're used to being on Zoom calls, they can turn off their camera, they don't have to be like on, or, they feel comfortable looking around, not necessarily like eye contact with the camera, but um that is so obvious to me how uncomfortable people are with that. It's really crazy.
yeah. It's like, what
Um,
do you think is going to happen? But I mean, I kind of understand there's times where I'm out in public and I just don't feel like being approached or bothered. So I understand, I get that. But at the same time, it's just like, I think people are just like kind of buzzing through their whole world and they're just like, in their brain, they're like, I got to get the groceries and then I got to grab gas and I got to, like, they've got the list of stuff going on that they have to get done in their head. And I think everybody's just in that moment. But if you can just smile at somebody or like, especially like your baristas and things like that, it's just, you can make their day so much better. Like you can make someone's day so much better just from getting a genuine smile from you. And you don't know how that's affecting the world. I've had people from like that I've spoken to years ago that I don't even remember the conversation. They're like, that one conversation with you changed my life because you said blah, blah, blah. And we don't know these little things that are affecting people on a bigger level. Unhoused people, I always make eye contact with them. And especially with disabled people. Disabled people go through the world and people just want to avoid it. I look at them, I smile at them, I acknowledge that they're in the room. And that can change so much so many things.
yeah, no, I love what you said about making the effort with your barista, making the effort with your server. And I do this, my favorite thing to do is when I am interacting with anybody in a store, whether it's a server, or barista, or just like a cashier, even, I'll say, so is it the beginning of your shift or the end of your shift? Should I welcome you to the day or should I congratulate you on being able to get out of here soon?
That's a
And
great question.
yeah, and it always sparks conversation and I learn something about them and you can usually figure out, some sort of compliment to give them, out of that response. But you're so right about what an enormous difference it makes just giving someone a compliment on even the smallest of things. Like you have no idea.
And the thing is when I'm thinking about like a barista or a waitress, chances are that's not their dream, right? They just want to get home to their kids. And if I can make their day just a little bit better, and of course, a good tip, always like I highly recommend tipping your waitresses and your baristas really well, because that's going to make their day too. But just even having that interaction, it's like they get crap all day. Like they get like, oh, this coffee isn't right, and like people are just upset about it, and it's just like, if your coffee's not right, be nice to them. Like just like it's like it's like they're just they just want to go home and see their kids. They just want to go home and see their loved ones. This is not their dream. Like, this is not their dream job, I promise you. I mean, maybe some people it is, but for the most
Yeah.
part, probably not.
I did a brief stint as a server, and it was, and I mean brief. It was horrible, horrible at it. And
Yeah.
but at the time, there was just like a part-time thing that I did, and while I was, interviewing, for what I really wanted to do in life, which is, wildly different. But you're right. I mean, it was a little disheartening sometimes how people, like, when you're in that role, that's how they see you, and that's all they think that you are, Meanwhile,
Right.
it's just a job, you're this human, and you have no idea what else is going on, So,
And it's a job you should really appreciate because clearly you're there and you didn't want to make your own damn coffee. So
yeah,
like,
exactly, exactly.
you didn't want to make your own meal. So like it's like I just have so much love for our waiters and waitresses and people because they're just people. Like they're just people and they're getting through it.
Yeah, so I just want to remind everybody, like, the whole reason that we're talking about this right now is because you need to be able to do this skill with anyone and practice it with anyone and everyone you come in contact with, so that when you are in front of your target customer or client, it doesn't feel forced. You've been doing this out in public, and it feels natural to ask these kinds of questions, make these observations, compliment people on things that they just wouldn't think that you would notice about them, because you've gotten good at noticing things. So I love this approach, Amy Jo. Real quick, if this is hitting home, you're not here by accident. People like us, we don't just consume, we back what matters. So if this kind of content speaks your language, go ahead and hit like or subscribe right now. It's how we keep building this together. It tells me to keep going. All right, let's get back to it. This has
And you
been
know what?
great.
You know what's crazy about it is that we get upgraded almost everywhere we go. We even got, okay, so we even got, this was crazy. So we were coming back, I can't remember where we were coming back from, but there was three of us. There was the speaker that we were working with and my husband and I, and we got to the airport and things were delayed. It was really hectic. We got the person behind the counter to give all of us TSA pre-check. Yeah, and I didn't even know that they could do that. Like,
I didn't
I
know they
didn't
could do that. Explain that to me. They can do that?
yeah, all they did was they reprinted our cards that said TSA pre on it. And so when like our boarding passes. So when we went through the boarding pass, it said TSA pre, so we were able to all go through the TSA pre-check line. But
Wow.
yeah,
I didn't think that you could do that because, that requires like government background checks and
I know,
uh,
right? I
I don't
mean,
know.
we have it, but it wasn't showing or whatever, but our speaker didn't have it. And they gave it to all three of us. So my husband and I had it. It wasn't showing on our thing. We didn't have the card to prove that we had it. But she took us on our word and we were just connecting. We just connected with her. You know, there was another time at the airport where, oh my God, flights were delayed like 15 hours at Chicago. And, Chicago's so hectic. That airport's so hectic
Mhm.
anyway, and people were just like one after another. My husband and I were sitting there one after another. You know that I think Mark Bowden calls it the lizard, where they take the lizard stance, where they put their arms out on the table and they're like, I'm about to approach you. I'm about to tell you how it is. And so we were seeing this lizard stance happen and they were, and people were just yelling one after another after another. And we were just like, oh my God, that poor lady. I just feel so bad for her. So there's a little bit of a lull, and we went up there to the counter and we said, let's go up there with the sole purpose to make this lady smile. And we walked up and we said, you know what? I don't really need anything, but we're just watching you just handle these people so beautifully. And we just feel really bad for you right now. Can we go get you a coffee, or is there anything we can go get you? And she was just like, can I see your boarding passes? We're like, sure. We handed the boarding passes. She got us on the next flight out on first class.
Wow. That is amazing. I have a
Yeah.
friend who's a flight attendant, and she gave me a tip once. She told me to bring donuts and just give them to the crew whenever I got on, although this was pre-COVID. And I would do that, and I would get thank you cards in the mail a week later from the flight crews.
Really?
Yes, I was shocked. I was like, wow, like it meant that much to them that I just brought them donuts, that they looked up my information and wrote out a thank you card and sent it in snail mail. Like even, do you know what I mean?
See,
Like not even an email. Yeah.
that's so cool. It doesn't take much, guy. Like it
It doesn't.
doesn't take much to just think of somebody, write somebody a little note, practice like radical gratitude and just, appreciate people. It doesn't take much to feel like that. Like, my husband and I, we had first moved to this little tiny town. It had 1,500 people in it. And we went to go get our phone connected. This is back when we still had landlines. And we went into this little phone company and we were getting our account worked out, and there were these free pins on the table, and my husband loves free pins, and of course he's connecting with the lady, and he's like, I can really have a free pin, I really can. And she was like, yeah, take two, right? And so he was like all excited about the free pins and everything. And anyway, so a week later, we got a handwritten note and a free pin from the telephone company that said, hey, we really appreciate you as a customer. It didn't take much. It was simple. And you know what? They had our loyalty for life.
Yeah, I can imagine. Although I have to say, your husband, Jamie, how can you not love Jamie? I mean,
I
he
know.
is just like this huge, lovable teddy bear. And, of course, his accent is absolutely just,
I know. Yeah. He is pretty lovable. And he just connects. And the thing is he is really, really great at connection.
he
That's what he
is.
did. And he was a stunt actor at Warner Brothers Movie World. He's Australian, so that's his Australian accent. But he
Yeah.
was a stunt actor there, but he did the live action street shows. So what do you have to do? You have to connect with the audience. You're live on the street, right?
Yeah.
So then he went to Japan and he did that in a completely different language. So he opened up Universal Studios Japan in Japan and did the live action shows there. And he had to learn how to connect in a completely different language.
I think I can't stress the importance enough of connection. And, everybody loves talking about getting free stuff and free upgrades. So I'll share with you one that I did recently, just 6 months ago. But it's on the same vein of connection and really what it can get you. So I was doing a training at a company in Boston over the summer, and I was checking in. I knew I was going to be checking into a Marriott, and I didn't have a lot of points, and I had been at that one before, and I'd gotten stuck in their pretty standard room, and it was not nice. Like, because it was my second summer in a row doing a program at this company, and I just did not want that room again. But like, it was the location. I just really needed to stay right there. So I thought, what can I do? And I did the article technique.
Nice.
Yes. So, I walked in and immediately biggest smile, genuine smile, eye crinkles, right? With the front desk woman. And I said, she's like, hi, are you here to check in? And I'm like, yes, I am. And I just immediately went, on the flight here, I just happened to read an article about how great it is to work for Marriott. And I said, and they were talking about how they take care of their employees, and it was just such an amazing place to work. And she immediately was like, I'm telling you, they take such good care of us. The guy, that runs this franchise, he treats us like family, and like none of us ever like think about getting another job because, and she went on for 5 minutes. Like, and all I had to do was just make a connection and offer up a statement and just, because I think I said something too, like, you seem really happy today. I was just reading an article about, how great this place has worked. So, we can talk about, techniques on another podcast, but yeah. And I got it. Well, so in the end of the story is, this went on for a long time, but I got a room upgrade, obviously. I didn't even ask for it. It was just like, she was like
Yeah.
just about checking me in, and she gave me my key. She's like, okay, I know you're only here for one night, but I did upgrade you to the 2-bedroom suite overlooking the river. And I was like, yes, yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. That's so
So,
cool. That's so
but
cool.
yeah.
Well, those connections are really good. And you know how we were talking about my husband being so funny. That's actually one of the things that we teach in sales Tai Chi is the humor mindset. And what
Oh,
the
really?
humor mind yeah, and what the humor mindset is, so humor is actually the fastest way to influence another human. And the reason why is there's only 2 times where we're breathing at the same rate of pace and making eye contact. And one of those is when we're laughing, and the other one is when we're having sex.
Oh,
So, yeah. So as soon as you make another individual laugh, when you laugh together, you trust each other as much as if you had invited them into your bed. That's the level of trust.
wow. That is fascinating.
It really is. And the walls come down. And if you think about like body language, it's like when we laugh, we like expose our organs. So it's like we're
Our
safe.
karate, yeah.
And so that's a level of trust. Like also like in tribe, like you're not going to be laughing loudly if it's a unsafe place, right? So
Right.
you're automatically you're loud, you're being vocal, you're sharing it. So it's automatic trust. And when you're laughing, you don't think the other person is selling.
That's really interesting. Okay, but I gotta tell you,
Well,
people do ask me about the comedy aspect of techniques, pretty often. And most of the salespeople that I've talked to have a horrendous time trying to figure out how to work humor in. And I mean, it's pretty awful. You know, I mean, I can see why you want to use it, but I feel like so many people just don't know how to be funny or be humorous. It's like contrived, you know?
yeah, it is. And then sometimes it's like, well, I mean, some people just have a bad sense of humor. Right? It's like,
Me too. Yeah.
but it can be learned. It can be learned. And people can be funny even if they think they're not funny. We actually have professional comedians that will come in and teach some of it and teach the timing, teach the delivery, because it like Jamie, he's like a master at the timing. He knows when to slip it in. I think his brain just thinks in funny. So like like he's going to record a funny moment and be able to bring it up. It's almost like he practices all of his improv, right? Like it's
Yes.
like a repertoire. So the same way as we have a repertoire in techniques, he's got a repertoire in funny. And you can gain that and you can gain the repertoire, right? So you just
Right.
back to the same jokes that you've done previously when you find something that works. So it's kind of like you're just basically getting a repertoire of funny, right?
So has he ever just like dropped one on you, and like I can just imagine you, Amy Joe, being like, how long have you been holding that one in? Like,
Oh, all
how
the
long?
time.
Yeah.
All the time. All the time. He's like just waiting for the right moment,
Yeah.
right? And what's cool is my grandson has deemed Jamie the funniest person he knows, which is great. But everybody in our family is competing for that role because we have a very funny family for sure. My daughter's hilarious. My grandson's dad is actually a mentalist and a magician and very funny. His stepmom's hilarious. Like he's like comes from a family of funny. So it's really funny to watch my grandson who's 12 kind of try on things. Cause like especially like when he was younger, it didn't always land. It didn't always work
Right.
right. Oh no, you can't. No, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like,
Like it's
like,
funny for the wrong reason, at
yeah,
that age. Yeah.
like he like and my daughter's in this weird place between like not wanting to discourage him but also not wanting him to do it. So there was one time where he was about 3 and he's like, mom, come here, I've got a magic trick to show you. And so she goes into the bathroom.
Oh God, where are you going with this?
And he's 3 years old. He pulls out a toilet paper and he pees a hole in the middle of the toilet paper. and, she's like, "That's good, honey, but like we probably shouldn't do that." Like she's like, like that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
Oh,
All
so
right.
the humor mindset, just really quick. So what the humor mindset is okay. So when we go through something tragic, in the moment, we're in this really difficult space, right? But 3 months down the road, 5 months down the road, a year down the road, when we go to tell the retell the story, we often tell it funny. That does a lot of things. So like my husband and I, we were in Mexico 4 months ago. My husband had a stroke while we were on vacation there, and he spent 5 days in the hospital, and it was so stressful. But even in the hospital bed, we were like, okay, what's funny about this? And we were asking, okay, what's funny? How are we going to retell this story later? And we were already doing that in the hospital with the humor mindset. And what that does is it almost pulls you out. So you're a third party observer of the situation. And when you can pull yourself out of a situation, it's way easier to see it for what it is and start to solve it. But when you're in the middle of it, it's panic and it's stress and it's like, there's another one. Oh my God, my husband's going to kill me for telling you this one. So we were flying back on a flight. We landed in Las Vegas and it's midnight. We were delayed. Like we were supposed to land at 8 o'clock. We didn't get in till midnight. It was the last flight. And they were like, pick up your stuff around the thing. And so my husband noticed that something had fallen in the seat in between. And so he slid his arm down the back of the seat to get it, but it had this metal on the other side and he couldn't get his arm out. So his arm was stuck in the seat, but I don't realize this. And I'm just laser focused on getting my stuff because I don't want to block anybody or stop anybody. So I'm like grabbing my bag, grabbing my thing. And he's like, Amy, I'm stuck, right? And he's trying to quietly tell me. I immediately panic and go, help! My husband needs help. So now my husband's really upset because his arm is stuck in the seat and everybody's walking by going, what in the hell is going on there, right? And he's stuck. And by this time, he's arranged himself out. He's got plumber butt going really bad. His butt is up next to the window and his face is down near the seat like he's in this really awkward position because he's tried to wiggle himself out, but he's just gotten him stuck more and more and more, like Winnie the Pooh stuck trying to get honey out of the pot or something. It was the funniest thing, right? And I'm just like, all these things are going through my head. I'm like, oh my God, at first I'm thinking, oh my God, this is going to cost us a fortune. Like they're going to have to right. So they bring medics in. So now the medics are there and then they bring mechanics in. So there's like all these people standing around and the big boss walks up to Jamie and she's like, and you could tell that she was the big boss because everybody like straightened up when she walked up and she's like, did you lose something, sir? And Jamie just looks up from the seat and he goes, my dignity. And everybody fell out. I know. Everybody fell out laughing at that point, and then everybody went to work on solving the problem, right? But up to that point, it was like, oh shit, right? But as soon as he laid some levity, which he's so good at, now everybody was geared on solving the problem. And now it was like it let the air out of the room and we were able to step out from the side. And then another point, I start filming and Jamie goes, are you taking photos? He goes, are you filming? Are you taking photos? I go, no, it's live on Facebook. And then the pilot started cracking up. I go, no, I'm streaming live on Facebook. Jamie,
you guys must have a really good marriage.
We want to kill each other later, from time to time. But yeah, he was like,
oh my gosh, that's so funny. I mean, you're right. I mean, I remember actually you and I had just met in grad school when Jamie had a stroke. I think a lot of times we feel like it's very serious situations you can't be funny, but from what I am hearing you say, and now I'm realizing, we can find the funny.
We can.
In whatever we're talking about. So you want
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's really funny because like Jamie and I, when we're in emergency medical situations, the medical staff, like medical staff, EMT, they all have a really dark sense of humor. They have to get through what they're doing and what they see on a daily basis. So
right.
we connect with them, and we connect with them really well to where they will reveal their dark humor to us because we reveal it to them. Right. So we
Mhm.
can go, we can go with the dark humor, we can go there, right? And they will go there with us, which is really interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's like you have to have this level of humor. Even at a funeral, my husband will like lighten it all up, and he does it appropriately in such
Right.
a way that people, it's not offensive, you know, but in such a way that it just lets the air out of the room. Like it just takes the pressure valve off.
Yeah, and I'm sure people really appreciate that. I mean, I know I definitely would. Plus people, they want to remember the good times. Yeah.
They do. Absolutely. They do want to remember the good times.
So, what have we covered everything in kind of sales tai chi that you guys tend to cover?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, we cover a few things in sales tai chi. So we cover the sales, we cover social media. So we teach you how to
Mm,
do selling from social media and how to like be on camera, how to be funny, that humor mindset. And then we
mhm.
also do the room, which you're actually a part of that,
Yes.
read the room. So we teach read the room inside there, which is like it's kind of a combo of being able to read the people so that your message is landing better, but it's also how do you set your room up for success? Like if you are doing a live event. So we teach that. So we teach all of the aspects of that in influencing other people to lead them to to the sale, whether it's whether you're in a boardroom and you've got to pitch something in a boardroom, or you're just having a boardroom meeting that you have a certain outcome that you want to come out of, like how is your message landing, and then being able to pivot in the moment, because also speakers from the front of the room, they have a set thing that they speak about or talk about, but if they can read the room and they realize that their message isn't landing, they can pivot on the fly if they're able to read their audience.
And I think
Right.
that that's really critical. I love being part of Read the Room for that exact reason. And body language, reading body language is something that we didn't get into today. But in my opinion, and I know this is your opinion too, I mean, it is literally the most crucial skill that you can have. And almost no one teaches it. No one talks about it. You and I both study it extensively. Uh, but I mean, think about how many times, if you're a salesperson and you're listening to this or you're watching this, you go in, you've done your pre-call plan, you've researched the customer, you got your message, you got your sales materials, and it's just like the customer just is not interested, You have to be able to pick up on that and know how to completely pivot, in the moment. And sorry to say, but that
Exactly.
is a skill that you have to learn. And most people don't, they will never know how to do that naturally. Most people, I think, some people are just born gifted. Definitely, Jamie, has that skill. You obviously have that skill. It's something that I have learned over the last couple of years, studying the neuroscience of communication. But I have to say, like, for most of my years, I did not realize how critical that skill really was. So I'm glad you brought that up. But we'll have
It,
to
it
go into that more.
it really is critical. And one of the things that we teach in reading the other person is if you can read the other person, you can also read their objection before
Yes.
it comes out of their mouth. So if you can read the objection before it comes out of their mouth and address it, then the thought that's going on in their head is, wow, this person really knows me. Like they're in my head. Like, wow, like they get it. And you're connecting on such a deeper level by doing that. And if the objection never comes out of their mouth, it's never becomes an objection.
Well, I'm so glad you said that because I also teach that. I call it pre-handling.
Pre-handling.
And
Oh, I like that. I might steal that.
yes, yeah, because the research shows if you say it out loud before they say it. Like once it comes out of their mouth, once they say it, they're kind of married to it. So it's like their objection for forever. But if it never comes out of their mouth, then they didn't technically own it, and they can take it back and not feel like you got one over on them. Like, you sold them because they never said it. So
Right.
that's a really critical thing, is to verbalize people's objections, potential objections, before they do. It makes all the difference in the world. So I'm so glad you brought that up.
Powerful. And I love that you call it pre-handling, because like so funny, because like I'll come in and train a sales team. It's like, are you going to teach them how to handle objections? And I'm like, you should never have to handle an objection. It should never come out of their mouth. Like, you should never get to the point where you're dealing with an objection. As soon as you've got objections, the call is like this, and it sucks. It just sucks, and you're just pounding, and now you're selling.
Yeah, no,
Sucks.
I have a lot of thoughts around objection handling, because 90% of the time, people call me and they're like, "Oh, we really would like you to create an objection handling workshop." And I mean, they'll even say things like, "We really need help, with these objections, or just, we're not moving past them, we're not making any sales." And to your point, it's like it shouldn't get that far, because you just told me that you already know what they are going in. So, um, why
Yeah.
why are we even having this conversation? You have to pre-handle that stuff. You have to go in and say, "Amy Jo, you know what? I know that you were probably thinking that I'm going to say this, this, and this." And, you're probably also thinking that there's no way that my product can do X, Y, Z. And I totally get it if you're thinking about that. But here's the thing that you need to understand up front. Yeah. And, because then you're just having a conversation at that point. Because even
Exactly.
if they're curious, they're just going to say, "Well, I thought such and such, or, well, this is what I heard." And it's just like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I've heard that too, but here's why that's not the case," or whatever it may be. But I mean, there's so many things that you can do, especially if you know the objection up front. But I digress. It's like a hot button of mine.
And it's a hot button for me too, because they're like, "Well, did you teach them how to handle objections?" I'm like, "Oh my God. I have to educate you on what that is, And then the thing is like, if somebody has gotten to the point where they're sitting in front of a salesperson, they want the thing. They want it. They're not there because they're like, "I don't want this." They're not going to take the time to meet with you. They already want the thing you're talking about. If you
Yeah.
have somebody in front of you,
I mean,
right?
yeah, and 99% of the time, they know you're a salesperson. They know
Yeah.
literally that your job at this point in time is to sell them something. And yet you don't, like, just jump in.
Disconnecting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're disconnecting, and you're not like reading them properly, and you're not seeing what they really want, because what they really want you to do is they really want their questions answered around the thing. And then what the real question is most of the time is, will this work for me? Right? So that's generally the main objection and the main thing that they're wanting to know.
Me.
Yeah. Yeah. Will this work for me? Like, I believe it works. I believe in the product. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here. But what I really don't know is, will it work for me? Right?
Yeah.
And so that's generally the first hurdle you have to get over,
Yeah. And aside from, that, and I'm just aligning on, unmet needs, that they perceive,
Yeah,
and providing,
exactly.
setting it up as a solution. But yeah, no, I hear you. But I think
Love
it's, it's people are still so old school on a lot of sales techniques, which is why, at BrainCelling, I created the brain to brain communication model. That's why you have created Sales Tai Chi, because there is an entirely different way to have a brain based conversation that takes into effect how the brain likes to communicate, what is happening subconsciously. And once you start to know all that stuff, you're just like, oh, this is a lot easier than I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And it doesn't feel like sales. It should not feel like a sell. It should never feel like sales. And
yeah,
that's where people have the idea. And I think, like getting back to the masculine, feminine, sales was a male dominated profession for a really, really, really long time. And they do it their way. They sell the way they would want to buy something, right? But I
100%.
think, and especially with COVID, people like were bored. And so they got onto all these webinars and all these seminars, and they were just getting sold, 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 sold. And people are sick of it. And our consumers are much smarter now. They're much wiser. And that old school selling, it doesn't work anymore. It's old and busted, and it's an old model.
Yeah,
And
it
our
does not.
model is the new model. The way that you and I sell is the new model, and it works. It works beyond well, beyond well.
It works really well, and more than that, people have fun learning it. Salespeople, I mean, they're just as hungry for a new way to sell than, as their managers are, as a new way
Yeah,
to, make sales. So it's
great.
like a win-win. So
It
that's
really
awesome.
is.
Amy
Cool.
Jo, is there anything before I ask you my final fun question, is there anything that we didn't talk about in your universe? Because like I said, you're very talented. You do many things. Did we kind of cover everything that you do?
One more thing, I guess I'll say, one of my superpowers is I see making money differently than most people see it. So where most people pay to do the thing, I get paid to do the thing. And my husband's always like amazed because he's like, I don't like you, I just see it differently. So I'm able to take a look at your business and see where money's leaking out, where you might be able to close some of the gaps. And one of the things that I ended up doing was I became an Amazon influencer, and literally everything in my house is sponsored. This shirt, this necklace, this couch, these glasses. Like everything I own is sponsored. So I get paid to take these products. I get paid. I got paid to take this couch.
Nice.
So it's just a different way of seeing things. And so inside Sales Tai Chi, we do a lot of business. I do a lot of business coaching and taking a look at people's specific businesses, and then, where can they incorporate the things that they like doing and earn from it instead of just paying to do the things you want to do.
Wow, that's really interesting. And I'm sure a lot of people are probably blown away by what they don't know about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, like my love language is gifts. I literally get gifts every single day in the mail. I have contracts with some of the companies where they just ship me stuff. I just got $1,000 red light therapy sleeping bag.
What? That's awesome. I love
I
red
know.
light therapy.
I love it.
Oh,
I love it. It's
yeah.
great.
That's a whole other podcast. All right,
Yeah.
that is really interesting. All right, so my final question for you, and this is from our mutual friend James O'Pile, master interrogator. Tell me, Amy Jo, what is one thing that I wouldn't know about you unless I asked that you would like me to know?
Um, I know what it feels like to get licked by a grizzly bear. I had a grizzly bear lick my arm.
Okay, and was he like tasting you, or was it an affectionate lick?
It was an affectionate lick, and their tongues feel like the most velvety, soft tongue you've like. It's like their tongues are so soft.
Oh my
It's
God. Okay, I need more detail on that. Like, what? How did that happen?
okay. So I was a stunt woman in Los Angeles for 12 years, and I would work with animals from time to time. And it was a commercial that we were doing, and this grizzly bear was like 9 or 10 feet tall. Like it was huge, and he was so cute. I just wanted to cuddle him, but he wasn't like cuddly. But
He wasn't like
so
a cuddler.
they put peanut butter on my arm and had him lick it off my arm. So it made it look like I was being attacked by a grizzly bear.
Oh my God. I had no idea that both of you and Jamie unexpected
Yeah.
stunts. I had heard Jamie mention that before, but that's really cool. Gosh, you are just definitely a woman of many, many talents. So that's
My
great.
my favorite my favorite animal I worked with was a monkey named Cody. He was a little orangutan. And
Okay.
he loved me. This monkey like would come wherever I was on the set and grab my hand and walk me everywhere. And he was my best guard because he hated boys and he would punch them all in the nuts. And so I had a full bodyguard the entire time I was on set with Cody because Cody would come and take me by the hand and he would come and he would want to share his red bell peppers with me. He would like split
Oh.
apart red bell and hand me his red bell peppers. And he would take me to this little mat and he would do flips for me and he would show off for me. But this monkey loved me and it was hilarious. So that was
Aw.
my
Oh my
favorite
God,
animal,
that's what a
Cody.
great story. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And if people want to learn more about you, check out your courses, where can they find you?
AmyJoHoney.com or just Google my name, Amy Jo Honey, or find me on social media. Reach out. I'm very active on socials, so you can reach out there as well. Yeah.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Amy Jo.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Jennifer. You're amazing.